All right, ready?
Oh, yeah, I did it 3 times.
Here we go.
I'm ready. Tune on in and listen to Angie's Shrink Show of a Life because I'm perfect.
Listen to our podcast, okay? You'll like it with therapists.
Coping skills. Shh.
Hi, friends.
Hi, friends. Today we have Rachel Kurian. She is a parenting coach, an early intervention teacher, and most importantly, she is a mom. She's the founder of Explore Kid Talk, where she works with parents to teach them positive ways to decrease daily struggles with young children. So if you are a parent, if you are thinking of becoming a parent, or even if you don't have kids, tune on in because I guarantee you'll learn and take something from this.
Even if you work with kids, there's so much to gain from this. And Jamie and I walked away with several things, but 3 in particular that we're both going to apply to our life immediately. But she's just a wealth of knowledge, and I welcome anybody to listen because she's fun and she knows what she's talking about. And she has a history, her degree is in special education. So she also understands from the education world, which is so beneficial.
Yay, enjoy.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Yay.
Thanks, friends.
Hi, I'm so happy to meet both of you. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, we are honored to have you on here. We were just talking about where you're from, because Jamie does a great job of finding guests. I, on the other hand, am just like, ooh, who am I meeting? Who's my new friend?
I'm from New York. I'm about like 2 hours east of the city.
So Rachel, who are you? What do you do? What brings you joy?
Let's dive right in.
Yes, I'm ready. So I'm a parenting coach. I focus on parents that have young children, so early childhood. Toddlers, preschool, early childhood is where I focus. So a little of my background, I have a master's in early childhood. I taught special ed and general ed in the schools, special ed preschool, special ed kindergarten. I was in the schools for a short period of time, and then I did early intervention. And do you know what early intervention is?
I'm familiar, but for our listeners, it might be helpful.
Yeah, so early intervention is when I go into the homes with little ones, with toddlers before school aged, for them to have one-on-one help with developmental delays. So I did that for many, many years, over 15 years. And then I started to pivot to work a little bit more closely with the parents, so that parents had support and strategies, and they had ways to tweak their words and different things to help support their child. And so that's where I am now. So being there to help the parents, have strategies and support so that they can parent the way that they want to. So many of us can't turn to our moms, or we don't want to parent the same way we were raised, or, Facebook groups aren't always helpful. So that moms and parents have a way to have strategies and support.
So do you do 0 to 18? Like parents of 0 to 18, or parents of, like, they can even have 20?
No, I really focus on early childhood. Parents of children in early childhood. So like before preteen, under 11.
Oh man, I feel like there's a lot of people who could use your services. Even just, it's making the connection between what you do and what a therapist does. There's probably so many overlapping similarities, because you're really holding space for the mental health of a parent, which anybody who has children knows is a lot. You're holding a lot of space.
A lot of space. And so many times, like with yelling, I do a lot on yelling or behaviors and things. We don't want to yell, but we find ourselves not knowing what else to do. Like, what do you do in that frustrating moment? instead of yelling, and you have to learn a different strategy and almost go against your instinct,
I
and
just say, I didn't want to yell. I don't want to yell right now, but you got, I'm just kidding. You pushed me to here.
But announcing it is actually something I say, like, let your child know, mommy's angry, mommy's frustrated, I don't want to yell. And I actually talk about like the parent taking a minute instead of giving the child a timeout. It's better for you to take a minute than to remove and punish your child.
I love that. I love
Thank
that.
you.
What?
So when people come to work with you, do they realize, is it more, I want my child to stop doing this, but then you're like, also there's some stuff that we probably have to clean up, mom, dad, to get said child to stop doing this?
Yes, that's exactly how it is. I'm actually working on that. I'm trying to market more, like for parents to tweak some things or small changes you can make, for the outcomes that you're looking for.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. They're like, I want to stop the tantrums or I want to stop the yelling, but there's more behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So my brain is going 1,000 different places, like from how does somebody find you to what is the craziest story you heard to, I don't even know if I'd want you to come into my house because I'd be like, ugh, to what if, like it really is a child with extremely difficult behaviors to manage in any environment, right? And but then you have multiple children. So like all these questions, go ahead, answer them all.
Yeah, fix it.
The stage is yours, Rachel.
Well, COVID, luckily, in a way, has helped parents be a little bit more comfortable online, which has allowed me to work with parents that aren't here in my area, in my community. And that's wonderful because then we can set something up where I can still be there with you in your home, but not actually in your home. And so actually, I've never had a client that's been here on Long Island in New York.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So it just hasn't happened that way. I had some on the East Coast and close, but none right here, which I think is great that I'm able to support parents, and it doesn't matter where you live. So it's no longer that it has to be within a certain location. You can get the support regardless of where we live. And so it's hard sometimes, like you just mentioned, Jamie, like you have one thing that's a struggle or something happening in the home. It could be bedtime or throwing food or tantrums or you yelling. And that's the practical problem that we work on. But we also work on the emotional aspect. And the emotional aspect is, where are you as the parent? Like, where are you today and what can you handle? And where is your child and what can they handle? So we work on both of those things. And that's what's really important to have. Then what we all want is the togetherness, the connection with our child, being that safe person for your child. You need those other things to have the connection, and so many times we're so overwhelmed with the house and the other kid and the dog and work and all the things that we don't check in with ourselves to see what we can handle. And then we yell and scream at our child when it's not really what we wanted to do.
And then we just perpetuate the guilt. I love how you say that, because there was a time several years ago where, as a social worker, it's easy to give 110% in your job. And I work at a behavioral school. So you can only imagine how much you can give. And, you have to not feel guilty you want to not feel guilty for not giving. But then I would always come home and I'd have nothing left to give. And I just expected my family to give to me, and I'd get so angry. And wasn't until I checked in that I realized that I was doing this. And so recognizing that percentage of, yes, I don't want to let down people at work, but I mean, even if I gave 50% in a capacity so that I could have to give to my family, because to me, that was the most important, yet I couldn't figure out, why am I so exhausted and pissed off, and my poor kids, and and then it's like this cycle of guilt that you're like a tumbleweed of guilt.
It is. And what we forget too, we hold on to that guilt and then we're upset by it. But this is what we're modeling to our child also. So in the same instant that you don't want to yell and you don't want to respond that way, that's what you're showing your child to do. You're not modeling to them how to handle these big emotions. How do I handle my big feelings? And what I always try to tell parents is that your feelings are valid for any situation, but so is your child. Their feelings are valid. So we have to separate the feelings and the behaviors, right? Because your feelings are valid. Your feelings are always okay. But how do we separate them from the behaviors so you can control your emotions, but teach your little one how to handle their emotions also? And that's hard. It's many times it's going against what we were taught as a child. Many of us were not taught how to handle our emotions. We were taught, don't cry, or you're fine. That's what we heard. So we were taught to not express our feelings or to not deal with them,
Or to feel bad if we had big feelings, because we should be fine.
Yeah, right. And so like when we heard don't cry or it's fine, we were told to ignore your feelings and that your parent knew that you're fine, that you're not really upset, or it's not important to be upset about this. Like your parent decided for you whether or not you should be upset. So I work a lot on that too, that sometimes it's just about changing our language and changing how we model to our kids. Because if we're yelling all the time at them and we're saying no, we shouldn't be surprised when their response to us is no and yelling, because that's what we've shown them.
Makes sense to me. How do you do this with, like a situation where you have one parent coming to you who's eager to learn, but perhaps their partner is resistant, or, I mean, a huge issue often is like domestic violence situations, where one parent has control over the other. It's like, I don't know, I guess, how have you run into that, and like what kind of advice did you give? I don't even know really what question I'm asking. Jamie, feel free to
clarify. It makes sense. Perfect.
Go ahead, Rachel.
It does. Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. Many times the mom may be willing to do something and the dad may have a little bit more resistance. Sometimes I've started to work with the mother and we record everything. So that way the partner or the other person having the resistance can watch it on their own time. They might not be ready to ask questions to me, but if they're ready just to listen, that is a start. And that's a huge step towards progress. And when, like, I've worked also with parents that were divorced. So the mom wanted to make some changes and do some things and change her behavior, but has to learn that she can't change her ex's behavior. So she can only help her child and do what she needs to do for her child when her child is with her. She can't make her ex change their behavior. And that is very frustrating because, like, this daughter is a completely different person when she comes home after seeing the dad. Like, her outbursts are different. She doesn't want to listen or doesn't do things. But working with the mother, we found that she really needs some decompressed time. She needs some time to get back to her regulation because things are so very different at the other house. So this is something that sometimes one parent has to deal with. If you're dealing with an ex or dealing with not being on the same page, the child's behavior can be different with a different parent. And then you have to allow your child to have that space or to have decompression time, or like I say, bring in the giggles. You know, like what can you do that's just fun and silly to change the mood, and see what that child needs after being with the other parent. It changed like her personality.
What are some of your examples that you use for bring in the giggles? Because I think a lot of times that is really helpful, but in today's society, when we're go, work, it's like sometimes we've lost that play. Because I mean, right, if I'm not working 24/7, then I'm not fulfilling my role as an American, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, like I just want to hang out and do nothing, or just, I don't know, run around the playground with my kids, right?
Right. Bringing in the giggles doesn't have to be like a half hour. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Like when you could do that, jump on a trampoline or play a game, have a dance party, that's great. Those are bigger things, but you can have moments of like bringing in the giggles. Like my son, an example, doesn't like to get out of bed in the morning, which so many of us can relate to. Doesn't want to get out of bed. You know, he wants extra minutes and extra minutes, doesn't want to get out of bed. Now, initially, what could happen is that I would yell from the kitchen, okay, you had 5 minutes, now it's time to get up, then go to the room, and I'm already working myself up and getting angry because he didn't get out of the bed. Instead, I give him his warning, and when he's still not ready, I go into the room and ask him how he wants to get out of the bed. So this is what you want to change. You don't want to ask them like a question for a non-negotiable. It's non-negotiable that he has to get out of bed and go to school. Like, I'm not going to ask you if you're ready, because you're not, right? We don't want to get out of bed. So I'm not going to ask you the question for the non-negotiable, but I'm going to ask you a question and give you a choice for how we do it. And that's how you can bring in some giggles. So you're giving them a choice to give some independence and to have some control. And then you bring in the giggles. So I ask him, do you want me to carry you to the bathroom in case he needs connection? Or do you want to slide off of me? Most of the time he picks slide off of me. So I lay down and he slides off of me, off the bed, onto the floor, and then we go to the bathroom.
I love
You
that.
need to use that. My daughter is not a morning person like her mother, so I'm going to use that tomorrow.
You know, and it's just a way to bring in a little bit of fun, a little bit of giggles, to change the moment of frustration. Me getting frustrated that he's not getting out of bed, and him being upset because he doesn't want to get up yet. So it's both of us being frustrated can easily become an escalated situation. But when you bring in a little bit of fun, it breaks it up, it calms you down, and then you're ready for the next step. You know, because it doesn't matter how he gets out of the bed. I just need him out of the bed.
Right. Jamie has an issue with shoes.
Every morning. Every morning, it takes like 19 hours for the team to put their shoes on. It's a whole thing. Even, well, yesterday they played with the shoes, so I didn't know where the shoes were today. So I'm like, Maddox, where are your shoes? And he's like, I don't know. And he's laying on the ground. I'm looking. I can't find them.
Is that your little one?
Yeah.
Is that your little one?
But
Well,
he's just laying on the ground going, I can't find them. And then Mira's like, Maddox, find your shoes. She's being bossy this morning. She won the contest.
You can have your little one like act like an animal. So how would the elephant look for your shoes? How would a dinosaur look for the shoes? You know, to change it. Or if you're ready for it, you could be the animal. And if you're the animal, it's definitely going to bring in some giggles. So then instead of you getting frustrated and them getting frustrated, and it's still taking 10 minutes, nobody has found the shoes.
Right.
Right? It's still taking that time. And then you get more frustrated because the time is passing. You know, like I know for me and many moms, the time, you know, like being late or needing to get out the door is a big trigger.
Yes.
So we get frustrated knowing that we have to get out this door and the time is still passing. So like you could bring in a little bit of fun then, instead of, you know, it's kind of boring to look for the shoes, change it up, and you could be the dinosaur stomping into the room looking for the shoes.
I'm gonna be a dinosaur. You've already lined up my morning for tomorrow, Rachel. This is great.
Dinosaurs and slides.
Slides.
How does this look with children? Because I know you did special education, so children with severe like mental health disturbances, whether it's major depression, and you know, because I think a lot of times when we think of needing a behavioral coach, it's because I'm screaming and yelling and my kid is acting big and bold. But I think a lot of times, you know, it's equally as frustrating with a child that doesn't want to do anything or is just really muted. But like I'm thinking of, you know, kids with ADHD, kids with autism, kids with severe trauma and maybe are in a foster care situation, kids with, you know, major depression and suicidal ideation. Like, I guess, have you come into contact with those, and how can your services help those parents?
Yeah, so that also, and I do make sure that the parents have other support, that the child has some support as well. So the parent needs support, but the child needs support too. And that might be a team, it might be a physical therapist, it might be a speech therapist. And I can help a little bit with that as I worked in early intervention. And when I worked in early intervention, we did a little bit of everything. So I came in before there was a speech therapist or a physical therapist to see where the child was and if they needed more therapy and other things. So when dealing with that, you know, I'm not a doctor, and when you're dealing with more severe struggles and behaviors and other things happening, they may need to see other counselors and other people that the child can talk to. And so that the child is getting strategies, but so is the parent, and then to do it together. You know, because when an autistic child is having a tantrum, or another child is having big behaviors and a tantrum, sometimes the best thing is not to talk. Sometimes they need to know that you're there, but it's not about asking questions. It's not about teaching, because they're not listening to you. They can't hear you at that time. So like, that's a strategy that I would give the parent, but the child also needs support depending on their level of what's happening and developmentally. What are they capable of? What do they understand? And I help the parent understand that, you know, that a 3-year-old doesn't have logic. So their world is right in that moment. They don't have logic. And so that's where other behaviors coming out, throwing, hitting, other things that you see. And it's when a child, maybe a nonverbal child, can't express to you. Language frustration is one of the biggest reasons that you see more behaviors, because they cannot get out what they want. They can't tell you how they feel, and they can't tell you what they want to fix it. So that's where the child needs some help in communication. Maybe that's pointing or sign language or other ways to allow the child to communicate with you. And then the parent needs strategies to help support their child. Does that answer your question?
Language totally makes sense, because I can't even tell you how many times I've forgotten the words to things. And I'm like, the thing, it's the thing. And like, it's so mad. Like, that's what I'm looking for. And I just want to freak out because I can't remember the word, but I know I should know what the word is. Yeah.
It is. So language frustration really causes a lot of behaviors. And that's in all children and because they really can't express to you. And at a toddler, at preschool, they don't know what the emotion is either. So they don't know what's happening and they can't express it to you. And then they have no logic to reason that it'll be better later or it'll be better tomorrow. It's not there yet. So developmentally, they cannot understand. They can't logic. They have no logic and reasoning of why their tower fell down, or pick their pajamas are dirty, or they have to brush their teeth every night.
It's so hard to remember sometimes as a parent, right? Like even as an educated parent that knows a lot of these things, still in those moments, it's so tough to remember all of the developmental needs and where each of them is coming from, and taking a time out to focus on that when I'm rushed and trying to do something that might be time sensitive, and it's like, parenting really is way more work than I think anyone even really realizes.
It is
constantly on.
And when you have children that are different ages, they're at a different stage of development. So I have a 6-year-old and an 11-year-old. They can't do the same things. And to be fair, we forget that being fair isn't giving our children the same thing. It's giving them what they need. So if you have children at different ages, they can do different things like clean up more or do a different household task. But being fair is giving that child what that child needs to be supported and to be successful. It's not necessarily that they both get the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know what you suggest for parents for that. I know for me, like I always try to explain, because my kids will be like, well, why do so-and-so, my 8-year-old get mad that the 16-year-old gets to stay up later or gets to, do this or do that. And the 6-year-old will get mad that the 8-year-old gets to do something. The 3-year-old really doesn't care because she runs the house. But yeah, so I always try to explain, like, this is the reason, like, this isn't anything against you. When you get that age, you'll get to do similar things, but each of my kids are so different that honestly, I don't even know if they'll get to do similar things.
Right. And explaining is good. So you're not hiding anything. You're not just like, well, that's how it is, and dismissing their feelings. That's what you want to make sure in those situations. Your child is expressing to you that they're upset, or they're upset because they don't understand and something is different. So you always want to validate their feelings. I understand that you're upset. Let them know that I understand that you're upset. Mommy would be upset too. And then explain, validate the feelings and explain together. And you can point something out maybe that they did that the older one didn't do. Like maybe they had dessert last night, you had a special ice cream and your sister didn't get it. Maybe because she was out doing her own thing. That doesn't matter. It's just, oh, you got a special ice cream last night and she didn't get that. Or we went to Starbucks yesterday and you got a special cookie and they didn't get that. Just if you can also point something out that they had something that was fun and special that maybe the other one didn't get, if you can.
Yeah, well, that's good. Jamie, wheels are turning.
I know. I'm just like soaking up all the fun facts here, but I like though that you focus on the parent side of things, even though I bet you, I'm guessing more people come in focused on like, my kid needs to fix this, my kid needs to fix this, because I think that's what I forget all the time too, is I forget how much more control I have over shifting the mood of the room. Again, knowing the right things and developmentally what my 3-year-old and 5-year-old are capable of, or even my teenager. And I think we forget because it wasn't taught to us. Because that's what I find I'm battling with is I do a lot of yelling because when my mom got stressed out, that's what she would do. And I know that that doesn't make any sense, like that I shouldn't do it, but it's like I watch myself do it almost, like I zoom out of my body. I'm like, what the heck? That grown-up's a psycho. Oh, that's me. And so I love that you probably, I'm guessing some of the parents don't realize how much more of a say that they have in shifting how like their morning routine goes, or how whatever routine is a struggle goes, because it's so easy to forget.
It is. And what you said is so right. Like we yell, and I came from a house of yelling. It was yelling all the time. And I swore that I was not going to yell. It was something I didn't want to do. Right. But becoming a mom, I found myself yelling anyway. And I was yelling over like things that shouldn't be yelled at, like the goldfish fell on the floor, or, you know, little things that happen, the shoes leaving in the morning. And I really had to change my instinct to do something different in the moment so I could control my response. Because, you know, there's a famous quote by L.R. Noce that says, an escalated adult can't de-escalate a child. And it's the perfect way to say it, because when we get mad and frustrated, then we yell at our child for not doing the thing. You still didn't get your shoes and you still didn't get ready and we have to leave the door. And then they just freeze. So we're yelling at them and getting more frustrated that they're still not doing the thing, and they just freeze. They just freeze. So now you're yelling and they're crying and the task still has not been done. And it's like that cycle that we find ourselves in. And just a small tweak of, like I said, instead of getting mad and yelling at him for not coming out of the bed, I go to the room. Instead of yelling from the other room, I look at him, so I'm eye level with him to know that I'm there for him. And then I change the situation from frustration to funny. And it can change the whole situation and allow you to do the next step without both of you really being frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got a lot to learn.
Your kids are very powerful. So Angie has lots of power struggles with her kids.
I can tell you, so I literally just got upset with the kids, and I didn't necessarily like yell at the top of my lungs, but it's hard because I was very frustrated. The 3-year-old, I'm trying to get her to poop in the toilet. You know, just go poop in the potty. And so she's sitting there and she's got her iPad because it's the only way I can get her to stay there. You know, I'm trying all the things. And the 6-year-old she thinks she's a little grown up, so she is everywhere. And then the 8-year-old has a lot of energy. So we got him one of those things that you put on the door that you can like do pull ups and stuff with. So he was doing those right next to the bathroom door. And the 6-year-old and him were then fighting because then she wanted to try to do it. And then it resulted in the 6-year-old going into the bathroom and shutting the door, and the 8-year-old lifting himself up and then trying to kick open the door and then falling because the door was shut and he couldn't. And I'm like, why in the hell are you even in the bathroom? Are you going to wipe her butt? Like when she's done going potty? Like, what are you doing in here? There's no reason you need to be, you are instigating. And it's like in those situations, I'm like, I am so, and why are you trying to kick the door down? Like, what are these decisions that we are making right now? Like, ultimately, none of this needs to happen. I just need poop in the potty. And that's the one thing that isn't happening.
You know, trying to get the poop in the potty is frustrating enough. It's frustrating enough. And you know what? It's okay if we lose it. Like, we're human. You're human. We're human. And so if you have a day where you do lose it and you're yelling more than you like, or you yelled at something that you're not happy that you yelled about, or even if you didn't yell, you're just not happy with how you responded. This is another teachable moment. Talk to your child then. Apologize to your child. Now, like I said before, your feelings are valid, but we're going to separate the behaviors. Don't apologize for being upset. Apologize for how you responded. And that's the difference. Like, our parents never apologized to us. It was just ignored. You know, so by apologizing to your child, it does a lot. It shows them that you're human. It shows them that you're not happy with how you responded and that there's a better way. And it shows them that we're allowed to make mistakes in this house. You know, so it does a lot to repair your relationship when you apologize. Because,
thank God.
yeah,
I
it
got
does.
that down.
You know, because we're human, and even with knowing the strategies or knowing the things, sometimes you had a really crappy day at work and, you know, the food didn't defrost and now you have nothing for dinner. And now this is, you know, they're screaming on the bathroom floor. Sometimes you lose it. So give yourself grace. And then after you've calmed down, then go apologize to your child. You know, but apologize, like I said, for how you responded, not for being upset.
No, that's good. That's good. And I mean, that does make me feel better because, like I said, I'm the queen at apologizing. I'll be the first to apologize to my kids. I'll also be the first to be like really kind of irritated with them because I mean we're a house of, like Jamie said, very strong personalities, and as you can tell by my shirt, I am the chaos coordinator. So that's I'm just trying to put out fires, just keep them alive, help them smile every now and again.
You know, and with the older ones, you can ask more questions. And you get there with the little ones. Like, I start with, you know, do you need a minute? And just like I said, like, when I'm frustrated, I take a minute. So I don't give the time out, but I take the minute. But I express that. So I'm teaching them, this is how I'm handling my big emotions. So when you have little ones, you start with, do you need a minute? And you do a minute before you calm down and then talk about it, teaching in that way. But as they get older, you know, you ask the same thing. Do you need a minute? Or just ask, what do you need from me? Do you need me to listen? Maybe they just need you to sit on the bed with them and not ask questions. They just need you to be there as that safe person, but not ask questions, you know. Or another question, as they get older, you could say, how can I help you? How can I help you do this? Or how can we fix this? Because as they get older, they have more logic and can tell you more, express more to you. So you can ask these leading questions where you're not assuming what they need. You know, how can I support you? How can I help you? What do you need from me? That way you're supporting them in the way that they need.
I love how you said that we aren't assuming what they need. And I think that is crucial. You know, because a lot of times, you know, Jamie always says, you know, like your kids are an extension of you. They're like a reflection of you, not extension. Jamie, right? You say they're a reflection.
They're reflection.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people think that they are an extension of me. So if I need this, then you obviously need this. Yeah. If I'm doing that on purpose, then you're obviously doing that on purpose, rather than seeing it as that reflection.
Yeah, because I want people to see the child as a separate. I think I just had a session. We just ended it. And this person doesn't have children, but they were like, sometimes I think people just have kids and they're just doing the same thing to their next kid and not working out their own thing. And I'm like, that's true. I go, I say that all the time. And because we're going through their past, and I was like, it sounds like their parent didn't see this person as a separate individual. They just were like, they just were internalizing their issues and throwing it at the kid. And now this adult was like, I don't think any of that was right. But they, even as an adult, were trying to piece it together. They're like, I don't think what I was told was actually who I am or how I acted. I think parent was doing wrong. Like parent was doing wrong and blaming me. And they didn't pay the bills. You know, they didn't supply me with this information or these basic needs. And I was like, that's true. You know, a lot of times if you see your kid as they are you versus they are a separate person, an individual, gets very upset about it.
Well, when it's even that control piece too, right? Because there's so many things, because like I have to control your behavior because that's a reflection of me. Because I mean, you look at the news and a child's acting out, and how often are they like, well, this parent should have done better, should have known better.
The mom's fault. Where's her mother? Yeah. Well, and I joked with Angie about how like my 5-year-old has a quality RBF just like her mother as well. And I'm always like apologizing for it before anyone even cares. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And then I'm like, I can't do that. Like, she's not stressed out about it. No one really cares. But I think I'm like overcompensating. And I'm like, oh, no. Let's, come on, smile. Don't be such a psycho. But it's not a big deal because she's not me. You know, it's not really bothering anybody.
But it triggers you. So you apologize because it's triggering you, but it's not triggering her. But if you continue to apologize, then she will take that on and start to apologize because that's what she thinks needs to happen. But it's triggering you. It's not a trigger for her.
So I need to talk to my therapist about that, huh?
You know, write that down in your journal. This is a trigger for me. I need to be aware of this.
Got it.
And
Rachel, it's such an excellent point to pay attention to as parents, because I often apologize for my kids being loud and big and bold and
same woman with the pink hair, but it's fine.
I know, right? And inadvertently like offending people or making them uncomfortable because they're being loud in spaces that people are like, kids should be seen, not heard. You know what I mean? And so then, you know, I'm like, either I'll apologize or I'll feel that guilt, but it's 100% the things that I apologize for are the things that I also have to become comfortable in myself. I'm loud as fuck. I am big. I am bold. I offend people all the time without trying to. And it's like, I'm all right. I figured out my way. So sorry, kids, like I'll be here if you hurt somebody's feelings and you need to talk about it. I guess like you chose me as a mom. That's your fault. Like that's something you're going to have to come to terms with.
You know, but that is something like when you see them doing that, that might be something that you have in your head that is bothering other people, whether it is or it isn't. So you're like preemptively saying sorry, where they're just being them and they're not really doing anything that's terrible or that they shouldn't be doing, you know, and it's something that gets to you. Like I used to apologize for me all the time or apologize when other things happened, but I wasn't responsible for it. It was just like, I felt like I always needed to be sorry. Yeah. And that was part of my growing up.
Yeah.
That
forced apologies.
I was conditioned to just always say sorry, you know, and like I remember when I was dating my husband and stuff, and he's like, why are you sorry? I don't understand. And it was like,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, pointed out to me that I was apologizing all the time. And I was conditioned to apologize. So like the same thing Jamie's saying, like with her daughter, if you keep pointing that out, or if you keep saying sorry for your children, they're going to feel like I'm doing something wrong. I now need to apologize.
Mhm.
You know, and that's why it's hard. It's hard for us to admit that sometimes we have to look at ourselves, like, as you said, reflection. How are we reflecting our behaviors to our children? What are we modeling to them? And I
Yeah.
promise you, your children are going to learn way more from watching you control your behaviors or watching you respond than what you tell them to do.
Mhm. Well, and it makes me think of those parents where they're always like, my childhood wasn't that big of a deal. Like, it was fine that my parents did that, or, you know, it could have been worse. People trying to justify like yelling or justify, I have to be in control. Like, I'm the grown up, they must obey me. And I don't know, how do you combat that? Because on some level, it's like, it turns into an argument, like not an argument, but it feels like an argument, trying to almost like sales pitch this way of parenting, because people are like, well, it wasn't abusive, you know.
Right. But the way I see it is that we've learned that there are better ways to treat our children. And children are not little adults. Like people say that they're like little adults, they should be doing this. No, children are children. They are little people and they have big feelings and big emotions, but they don't know what to do with these things. They are not little adults. They are little people. Very different,
Yeah.
you know? And the way I see it is that you want to grow and learn, right? Most of us don't even have a landline, a house phone, where years ago, every single person did. You memorized everybody's number. Every mom had a phone book. We don't have that anymore because now we have a cell phone. So we've upgraded. Most of the time, we don't even make phone calls. We text because we've upgraded. We've learned that this is faster or easier, and we've upgraded. Same thing with medicines and all different things. You upgrade and you improve and you learn from other things. So like when parents say that, oh, I turned out just fine. Well, maybe I want my children to be better than fine, or, you know, to not have to just be fine because of their upraising. They can be extraordinary instead. You know, we can improve.
You know, one thing I was thinking the other day is with each of my kids, but I was thinking it specifically with my 6-year-old daughter, what a gift she is also teaching me on how I should show up in the world, because she doesn't care what people think of her. She really just kind of is what she is, and that's that. And it's like looking at her and I's relationship and how each one of us have helped one another grow in different ways is so beautiful. But it really kind of keeps going back down to that I'm not in control of them, I am guiding them. They are not an extension of me, they are a separate little person. And just understanding that even if they show up in the world and become a serial killer, I did the best I could. And, you know, I mean, my kids aren't going to, but, you know, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Maybe that's their journey in another lifetime, not this one. But I think that's so huge, is just seeing how, like, and it really kind of takes pressure off as a parent. Like, I am not the sole person responsible for the development of this one child's success in the world. That would be a lot of pressure.
It is a lot. It is a lot. And that's why, like I said, like when we yell, we need to apologize. We are human. And it's important to show our little ones that we're human, you know, and I made a mistake, or you can be humble, and that's okay in this family, and we're going to figure it out together. We're going to fix it together. Or next time we're going to make a better choice. You know, like I don't ever talk about like bad behavior. I never like to say like you're a bad kid, you know, and I talk a lot about that around the holidays and things like good and bad behavior, you know, naughty and nice and all that stuff, because that's not true. And then if you keep saying that they're bad, it becomes who they are. That becomes their identity. And it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like they've heard they are bad, or they heard they're a liar, and now that's what they are. Instead, you know, it's separate. Like your child could tell a lie. It doesn't mean they are a liar. It's separate. Because when you say you're a liar, that's who you are, your identity. You're a bad kid, not that you made a bad choice. So I talk a lot about choices, you know, and if this one maybe wasn't a good choice, okay, tomorrow, how can we make a better choice? What could we do differently? How can we change this and make a better choice? And that's for me and for them. You know, that way you're only looking at it as this was not a good choice, but we can fix it and make other good choices. You know, it's not their whole identity that it was a bad choice.
Yeah, I like that.
Then you have to unpack a lot of stuff as a kid, because if your parent thinks that you're bad or a liar, like, how do I deviate from that? That's my parent. Why would they lie to me? So if I'm a parent and I'm wanting your services, how do I go about that?
Do that.
Oh, thank you. Well, I am on Facebook all the time and messaging me. I'm open to anybody to message me, Facebook or Instagram. And I get right back to you so that we could set up a call to talk about what's going on. You know, in what capacity do you want to work together? Is that a short term where you just want to work together a little bit and have some strategies, but then implement them yourself? Or are you looking for longer continued support as you go through things and as you implement them? So I work with moms and parents one-on-one. That way I can customize it for them. So if that's a Saturday morning call and that works best for you, so maybe you and your partner can both be on the call, I do that, or during the week. That way I can customize things based on each family for what your needs are and what you're looking for.
Perfect. What other things do you think our listeners would need to know? Because I know, Jamie, you'll put everything in the show notes, all of the links and everything to Rachel's information. But are there any other questions or last minute? Oh my gosh, what am I
Words of
trying
wisdom that we didn't ask about that you want the listeners to hear?
Yes.
Words are hard.
I you know, that being a parent, being a mom, you know, if most of your audience are moms, but being a parent is hard and has different stages. Just like how your child is going through different stages of development, so does parenting. And you're learning and growing. So give yourself grace and be open to strategies and support so that you can parent the way you want to be. You can rewrite what parenting means to you. It doesn't mean what society is telling you to do or your parent. You can parent the way that feels comfortable for you. That's what I would share with everyone.
Nice. You know what that makes me think of too is, like, I know we have listeners who aren't parents, and for them to even listen to this and know that when you are in public places and see a struggling parent with a tantruming child, that this is likely what is happening, that that parent is working through things and doing the best that they can with whatever is happening with that child. Just to stop that parent needs to get that child under control mentality, because I think non-parents also need to be a part of the discussion so they can hold space for those previously held judgments or thoughts. So hopefully our non-parent listeners can take that too.
I love that. I love that, Jamie, because and if you see a parent with a little one having a tantrum at the grocery store, I encourage all of you to just tell that mom, it's okay. Today is a hard day, but it's okay. Instead of judging that mom,
Yes.
because we don't know what happened before the store or in the store or where they're going afterwards.
Yeah.
So if you could support that mom instead of judging her, it would help everybody.
Yes. Let's all stop this cycle. Yeah.
Jamie and I always joke about how, there's like a meme or something that says, I was such a better parent before I had kids.
I was such a good parent before I had kids.
I knew everything, all the answers.
My kids could eat at a restaurant before I had kids.
Oh,
Yeah.
mine too. Gosh, that was beautiful.
Crazy.
Also, I'm no judgment, but I look at people who have more than one child eating calmly at a table, young children eating calmly at a table at a restaurant. And I think, what is your secret? Like how, especially the ones that like, they're not just sitting in front of a tablet. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's a family rule for us. We don't bring tablets at a restaurant. You have to sit and wait like we do. And just like it's a rule for my kids, we don't look at our phone. So my phone will be in my bag, and my husband, we don't look at our phones. I bring a bag of stuff to a restaurant. So we have like coloring books or Color Wonder or stickers, and we make shapes and we play we'll play tic-tac-toe, and we do all of that while we're waiting for our food, but no tablet.
Yeah.
and they stay quiet and calm.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are an inspiration. Hashtag goals.
You have to have a bag of stuff that works for them. Yeah. And I started this young, so I never started with the tablet.
Right.
If you start using the tablet and then you want to take it away, that is much harder. It's much harder because now this is a habit and this is something that they expect. They expect, I go to a restaurant, I get a tablet right away. Also, ordering like an appetizer, so it comes before the food, is good, so that they're eating faster than waiting for the meal. Even if you're ordering a plate where the whole table's sharing, so they're not eating a lot of it. Or we would go for breakfast and just get a side of fruit so that you're eating that before the other food. And I also think that parents' expectations are part of a restaurant too. If you go and have to wait before you sit, you're wasting their good listening sitting time by waiting for a table. So I never wait for a table.
My God, Rachel, you're a goddamn genius.
Angie's gonna need your services.
I'm gonna have a bag of goodies because I don't do tablets or iPads or anything at dinner either, or breakfast, whatever restaurants. But in my defense, I also stopped taking my children to in restaurants altogether at some point because it was like, this is maddening. Because they just want to climb and go under the table and look over at the other booth, and I'm like, oh dear God. But I like it. I love that idea of bag of goodie things.
Wixie sticks sticks I keep just for the car. So these are things that are like just for a restaurant. So the Wixie sticks, we build with them and then you throw them in the bag. Easy things that you can have. I have a restaurant bag that's just in my car for going to the restaurant.
God, genius. See, these are these little hacks that, I love finding out from other parents. This is so good. Jamie, so Rachel, one thing we do is we usually drink gin. It's kind of early, so I'm not drinking gin right now. Do you have a cup of that, Jamie?
No.
No. Okay. So we won't share our cups because we like to have a different cup and try to relate it to, well, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to share mine because mine I think is perfect for this. It is, I may look calm, but in my head, I've pecked you 3 times. And that is how I parent.
That's fantastic.
That is, I love mugs too. I love mugs.
Yeah, so we drink gin and tonics out of coffee mugs because social workers tend to always, drink a lot of coffee, but we're social workers with a twist.
With a twist. This is
I know,
our
I love
self-care hour. That's why we drink.
Right. This is our break from our children so that we can be better parents. Rachel,
I love
you are
it.
incredible. I know you said you have an 11-year-old. You said 11 and 8?
11 and 6.
11 and 6.
I have
Oh,
2
man.
boys.
Oh, so you have the gamut too. I'm so thankful that you took the time to come on here, and I really hope that our listeners find so much value in this and reach out to gain your services.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you again so much. Jamie, do you have any last things?
No other things. This was so informative, and we appreciate your time and all of your information. And I think that's really it. Now I have so many fun new parenting things to already apply from just this discussion.
Slides, dinosaurs, restaurant bags, so many great ideas.
Thank you both so much. It's been such a pleasure speaking with both of you. Sometimes I wish it was a little closer so I could give you a big hug, but it's been great. Thank you.
I know it's so, I love being in person with people more than Zoom, but I obviously flying you here and having you just sit and drink gin and tonic sounds like a blast, but it's also a lot of money that I'm not sure we could just, as teachers and social workers,
Right.
we're at the top of the food chain, obviously.
Yes.
Well, thank you. And we're going to do our end, but then don't go away yet. So thank you so much, listeners. We really appreciate everything. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Look into all of Rachel's services. And even if you don't want them, highly encourage you to share them with other parents that you think would benefit. Because, the more we know, the better we can show up for our children and for ourselves ultimately. So thank you so much. Bye. If you think we're cool,
or even if you don't,
please like or subscribe so you'll stay up to date on all things The Shrink Show.
feel free to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at The Shrink Show.
You can also visit our website at theshrinkshowpodcast.com to check out some of our merch, submit your episode topic requests, tell us a funny story, or even donate money or gin to the cause.
Thank you for choosing to spend a portion of your life with us. And remember, don't take yourself too seriously. Life is all a giant shrink show.
A Huda Media Production.
Side effects of listening to this podcast may include side aches or snorting from laughter, impromptu jazz hands, nodding in agreement even though you might be listening alone, an occasional "you said it, girl," and mild cases of existential dread. This podcast is strictly for entertainment and informative purposes only and is not intended or implied to diagnose, treat, or otherwise substitute for professional mental health, medical, legal, or other advice. Thank you.